Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. We have a fairly busy agenda this evening. I'll call for an approval of the agenda. We've got a mover and mourner and a seconder. And Nick, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye or holding your card up.
Aye.
Motion carried. I will make a few comments just before we go to the approval of the minutes. We've had a very busy, few weeks collecting information and so forth, and certainly that's on our PAC website link tonight, and has been for quite a while, most of it. So there were a few late additions, but most of it's been there for review for quite some time. Having said that, I'll apologize certainly as chair, and we talked a little bit initially about these processes of the MPS, or the municipal planning strategy, and the land use bylaw, the amendments that we're considering there, and the actual Boreal application kind of moving through concurrently, but that's caused some confusion in the public. These are even though we're going to deal with them at one time initially, these are very, very different issues, and certainly the land use bylaw and the municipal planning strategy speak to the whole gamut of activities in the municipalities, and where it concerns aquaculture, it talks about the whole range of potential aquaculture from finfish, obviously, to aquaculture that involves farming plants, or aquaculture that would involve could involve finfish, recovering species, all those types of things, fish hatcheries. So in any event, it is best that those items are dealt with separately in separate meetings and so forth. So in the event, those are my comments sort of going into the meeting as PAC chair. I think they're useful to set the stage for tonight's meeting. My apologies for just getting my agenda up again. Okay, so looking at the next item on the agenda is item 3, approval of the minutes from June 15, 2021. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion, Trevor, to approve the minutes.
Councillor Cushing moves. Is there a seconder? Josh Trask, Mr. Trask, yeah. We've got a seconder. We've got a mover and a seconder. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Okay. All those opposed? Okay. Motion carried. Now we're moving on to item 3.1, amended approach to June 15th, the motion. And I've kind of foreshadowed some of the material, but I will hand that off to CEO Brooks to discuss that matter with us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I filed a brief with the Planning Advisory Committee as the Senior Administrator for the municipality. At the June 15th meeting, when the Planning Advisory Committee was discussing the business before it, and the application from Boreal and the associated functions that would be required in order for that project to even be considered, while we had separate motions on the books, as you noted in the minutes, the intention was that the processes, the 3 processes, so amendment to municipal planning strategy, amendment to land use bylaw, and rezoning, would move through their individual processes, but they would move through concurrently. And as you'll note in the briefing note, the planner, Caroline Robertson, and myself contacted the PAC chair, and we explained to him early on in the public participation process that was causing a lot of confusion for citizens. It was difficult for individuals to understand the difference between the higher level view of what would it look like to consider a broader range of aquaculture possibilities versus this very specific project that was being proposed by a very specific proponent. So it was agreed to sever the processes and hold the zoning, the rezoning application until after the Planning Advisory Committee and Council had dealt with the possibilities around the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. So because those were motions on the book and because of the language in the Municipal Government Act, it's required that that differentiation and that departure from your direction be noted and recorded. So I have filed the brief with the PAC and I'm requesting that you accept my brief just to get on the record that the approach was modified and that you're aware and that you more or less approve of it, even though it's already been done.
Okay, thank you, C.O. Brooks. Do we have a mover to accept the brief that C.O. Brooks has presented as circulated? Councillor Nick Hilton, you move?
Can I just speak to that? So I
Sure,
think
yeah.
I will move it because I think it was the right approach.
Councillor Cushion, could just procedurally, could you move it in second? Then I'll come back to you for comments
Sure.
to get it on the floor.
All right, I'll second it then, yeah.
Okay, Nick moves, Lauren seconds. Councillor Hilton, my apologies.
No worries. That's great. So just, I know we have a number of community members watching tonight, a lot that were confused by the process, and I'm happy that we took that step back because I felt that's what needed to be done in the first place. Just to the CAO, like when that was done, like, is it normal not to inform the whole council or the whole committee at that time? I just feel like we were as confused. I found out about that from my constituents, and it created confusion for us trying to answer questions we didn't know as a committee. So going forward, I have to say communication and transparency on those issues is important. And I think the people in our community would agree. And I found the process extremely confusing, which is part of the reason, and we'll discuss later more about that. But I guess I want the community to be aware and you guys to be aware that it wasn't as transparent and easy to follow as I might hope this complicated process might be. Thank you.
Yes, C.O. Brooks,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I respond?
certainly.
So through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Hilton, the PAC was notified, as was Council, about the change in the approach through an email. And so that's actually recorded in the briefing note. And I would concur with Councillor Hilton. We were trying to manage a lot of things at one time, and we recognize that there's a lot of confusion in the community. And there's a difference between confusion and transparency. And so I will submit that everything that was done was communicated to the public individually when people ask questions, through councillors, through PAC members, and through staff, as well as in our external media.
Agreed. Okay, thank you. Any other comment or any other question or comment about the motion on the floor? Concerning the motion on the floor?
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'll call a question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay. So there is item number 4, business arising from the minutes. There is none there. Item number 5, correspondence for information. There are 2 items there. They're for your information. 5.1 is a progress report from Upland Planning. 5.2 is MODI planning process, and that's the training that was received. Is there any comment or any question about those 2 items? There is simply really there for your information. Okay. Seeing none, items for discussion or approval, which is item 6. Public participation meeting report for Sheboygan rezoning. And
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to excuse myself from this particular subject. then I'll have no comments or questions referred to me on this one. So,
And
And I'll,
that's because of a conflict of interest, I would expect, Councillor Cushing, correct? Okay, thank you so much. I'll turn things over to our planner for item 6.1. Carolyn?
Good evening, everyone. So I'm actually not going to present the material tonight. I'm just going to be available if you have questions related to the planning. So these applications haven't changed from what we discussed at our last meeting. The only difference is now we've done our public participation program, which we've hosted. So you guys were all participants of the public meeting and got to experience that. And we've also included all the letters and correspondence that we've received. So for Chicagan, there is a suggested motion that if you're ready to move this along to council, you can use, but I'm just going to open it up for discussion. And if you have any questions for me at all, I'm here.
Okay, that seems like a good way to proceed. Any questions for the planners? Yes, Councillor Hurlbert.
Thank you. As you're aware, I'm the alternate for Patty, and I have been following both of these files. And I have a question, and given the timing of releasing this information and working yesterday and all day today, I have the question about a development agreement isn't necessary. I think I read that, but I don't remember where in this document. Am I mistaken or not mistaken? Can you clarify?
So for a lobster holding facility, that would be allowed as of right in marine industrial. So what the applicant's done is applied to rezone the property to marine industrial.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions for our planners? Okay. So we've got a, oh yes, Councillor Hilton.
Just a reminder that this information, I'm assuming, just went live as a public agenda. We have 26 people watching that haven't reviewed the report from the public participation meeting. So any additional comments to inform people on the decisions that we were making are beneficial, especially from the planning process. So as simple as even just reading the recommendation that we'll be considering, and any highlights maybe of the participation meeting.
And Councillor Hilton, what I can say about this is the PAC sends things to council, so this this information will be live for quite some time before any final decisions made, including a public hearing at council. So I'll look to our CO. Any additional comments on that issue, CO Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think the only thing I'll confirm is that standard practice. So when committee of the whole and council agendas go live, it is actually when the meeting starts. So that's our standard practice.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's standard. Okay, thank you. So any additional questions or comments? Okay, so we've got a suggested motion. If somebody would like to read that into the record as a mover, that may be a way forward. Yes, Warner.
Yeah, I will. I'll read the motion into the record, Trevor. I move that the District of Yarmouth Planning Advisory Committee recommends council for the District of Yarmouth approve the rezoning of 412 Sheboygan Point, PID number 901-69830 from rural development to marine industrial.
Okay, thank you, Warner. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Nick seconds. Okay. And are there additional questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion? Okay. All those opposed? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. Okay. Thank you, everybody. So item 6.2, public participation meeting report for the amendment municipal planning strategy. I'll turn things over to our planner, Carolyn, to lead on that discussion. Carolyn.
So this is a lot of material for you guys to go over in a very short period of time. So I apologize. This is the result of our public participation process program that was hosted by the Planning Advisory Committee related to this application. So we have a case study here that we did where we looked at available licenses on the Nova Scotia Fisheries and Aquaculture's website to look at other land-based aquaculture facilities that are operating within Nova Scotia. So that's the first document on your plate. We have the public participation results. So that's the minutes from the meeting, as well as all the letters and phone calls and direct messages and Facebook posts and everything that we've received on this topic there for your review. There is a recommendation that I've given based on the public participation results that I've seen, a letter with a recommendation, and it aligns with the recommendations that we discussed and that we did at the last meeting and that I've already presented. So I'm happy to open it up and answer planning questions at this time. But I think really what needs to happen tonight is we just need to have it. You all need to have a discussion about what you've heard and what you've read and how you understand things. So I'm just here to answer questions and support as needed. So, Mr. Chair, did you want to lead the?
Sure. I mean, we've had a fulsome. I think thank you, Carolyn, for all your efforts, and thank you, CEO Brooks, and everybody on the Planning Advisory Committee. You've all done great service to this point, certainly on all these issues. We had a period where people submitted, obviously due to the record. You can see they've submitted a lot of material. I guess lately we've added the land-based aquaculture case study, so that was fairly late. The other bits have been up there for the committee's review for quite a bit, and we all did participate in the public participation session, which I think went very, very well, and we gleaned a lot of information there. And again, I enjoyed the process, and it really allowed us to understand that the breadth of the aquaculture activities that may be possible, and I alluded to those a little bit in my comments, sort of leading into the meeting this evening. So, I mean, those are my comments. I've had, thank you, Carolyn, I've had the opportunity to review all of the material. And again, to CEO Brooks' point, this is sort of standard procedure that the meeting goes, all the material goes live for the public, before at the same time. So it's the same process that we've had for all council meetings and all PAC meetings leading to this point. So that bit's no different, and I hope everybody enjoyed certainly, all the material and all the information, all the experts we've had to this point. So, okay, any further comments from anybody on the PAC? Warner.
Thank you, Trevor. It's been a tremendous amount of information to assimilate over the last couple of days. And I've learned a fair bit about aquaculture that I didn't know before. I found the case studies to be particularly enlightening. And when I look at the case studies and looking at the comments and the input from the community and what I've been able to glean myself, it looks to me that if we open the door the way is proposed in the changes, we are opening the door for industry to do aquaculture in the cheapest way for them to do it, but the most intrusive way for the environment. So I don't think it's to the municipality of Yarmouth's best interests to reduce our standards as low as is being proposed right now. I think we need to find either a middle ground or leave the land use bylaw and planning strategy the way it is.
Okay, thank you. Sherry, Councillor Herbert.
I actually think Josh or Councillor Hilton had their hand up first, so I'll let them go.
Okay, and I am the hands. I will get to everybody. So Sherry, why don't you go first? I've got you on the upper left-hand side, so I will.
Okay. Oh, actually, Jenny says Lauren was first.
Okay, let's just go with you first, and then
Okay.
we'll get to everybody. Yeah.
Okay. I would have to say, even though I have been, as a counselor, I've been following this closely and, reading every single email that I've received and participated in the public participation last week while on vacation. I find it a bit overwhelming that with less than 36 hours to this meeting that we received 100 pages of information. Some, yes, for granted, we have received an email format, but this is the first time I've seen the land-based aquaculture case studies. And I guess from a counselor point of view and, and PAC representative, I feel like we're rushing something that either shouldn't be rushed, or if we have to make a vote on a motion, which I would actually ask to table the vote. I think the discussion is great, but I don't think that I would be ready to vote. And if I were to vote, I would be voting in the negative. I feel like there should be more information on why we're doing what we're doing would be good for us, and why we're doing what we're doing would be bad for us from a municipal planning strategy, not talking about specifics, but finfish versus, bivalve. Is there a way for our municipal planning strategy to have a finfish one closed versus bivalve open? I don't know what the process is for that, but for me, I feel like 100 pages of information in 36 hours is completely an unreasonable request for anyone who, even if you didn't have a full-time job. I think trying to digest this and even try to process, didn't even have a chance to print off any of the documentation. And I'm a printer and a scribbler, and I go back and reread and research, and as much research as I've done, I just feel like I'm not ready to make a decision tonight. And if I was forced to make one, it wouldn't be in the positive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Josh Trask.
Hi, thanks. I agree with both Warner and Sherry. I've only actually had the material for about 24 hours. I apologize for missing the meeting, but I was on vacation last week, but I didn't have access to the materials until about 10 o'clock yesterday morning. And I went through as much of the material as I could, but when I go through very dense material like that, I like to research it myself, find other side, I guess, bits of education information, try to learn more at a time. It takes me a lot of time to go through that kind of material. And the more I dug and the more I looked into it, I have to agree both with Sherry and Warner that if we're forced to make a vote on it tonight, I don't believe that the information presented to us as PAC was full. There's a lot of extra information that it just wasn't presented to us. And it only took me 15-20 minutes of looking myself to find this information. And I think this is the stuff that some of the council members have been bombarded with from the public, because they can easily find the information themselves too. And I think we need more time. I think we need experts like marine biologists to come and appease the public's fears, their justified fears. We have a big industry here that is working really well, and any upset to any of that could be detrimental to this whole region. I've said this at meetings before, we only have one real industry down here at this end of the province, and to upset that for roll of the dice, maybe, it's just not worth it. And until my fears can be mitigated by like real experts that are going to say that there's going to be no detriment to the lobster larvae or any of the periwinkles or whatever everybody's going on about. I've not been appeased that these negative effects won't happen. So I have to agree with them. I think we need more time to be better informed. So that's just my thought.
Okay, Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to thank Carolyn and for bringing in the experts that we had for that public meeting. Unfortunately, my opinion, again, I think some of the experts weren't, to my thoughts, weren't qualified. One person said that they really weren't familiar with the Yarmouth area, so that speaks volume there. But there was a number of other experts that we should have asked, and they may not be scientists, but they've been in the business of making a livelihood from the sea and the sea creatures and the sea bottom. Number one, I learned a lot about the bloodworm industry from people who have been in this business for over 60 plus years. They have seen some good times, they have seen some hard times, and they've seen some excellent product from the Yarmouth Harbor area alone. Plus they also harvest from other areas such as Widgeport and wherever there's a flat, they'll harvest it, right? So to me, people who've been in the business for 60 plus years are experts. When I went to talk to them, they explained to me the larvae, how the eggs are fertilized from the male and female worms. It was something I never realized, that they float around for 5 to 10 days before they finally go back to the bottom. Other experts that we have been generations of lobster fishing. They're good at what they do. They certainly believe in conservation, and they really want to stand up for conservation, which is being in jeopardy in a number of different aspects. So those are experts. Other experts that we have who've been in regeneration again, making a livelihood, have been the people digging clams, raking rockweed. Those are experts. Those guys and gals, they made their living from that. Maybe it wasn't as lucrative as the lobster fishing industry, but it's still lucrative. And then we can't forget about the groundfish people, groundfish fishers. They know what the problem is out there, why the stocks are not replenishing. They know that. But does DFO listen to them? No. Does the scientists listen to them? No. But they're the experts. They know what's going on. We have a multi-million-dollar industry that we've been fishing and making a lucrative industry out of it, and the spin-offs that have generated throughout Yarmouth County and beyond are enormous. I don't know if people actually know that out of the species of fish landed at the Yarmouth ports that are run by the Yarmouth Area Industrial Commission, the species landed there account for almost 22% of those species in Nova Scotia. That's how important our fishery industry is. So I don't know if this is the time now or not to make them to make a motion, but when it comes time, I certainly like to recommend that suggested motion that we bring this matter to council as soon as possible, and let's put this to bed so that we can move on to doing the right thing for aquaculture and our fishing industry. Thank you.
So Lauren, I mean, I'll add a little commentary here. Certainly, I don't see any additional hands up. So I'm kind of, what I think is in, I'll get to this in a sec, Nick, for sure. What I'm hearing, and I'll let Councillor Hilton weigh in a sec, but what I'm hearing is, you know, I think there's, you know, at least enough, I think, of the committees looking at the motion. The motion, I will say, is not to recommend in a positive way necessarily the changes to the amendments to the land use bylaw and municipal planning strategy, but to have council consider it. So that will be the motion. But what I am hearing
That's
from
correct.
folks is yes, absolutely. And ultimately, council decides, you know, the recommendation to consider or to approve. In this case, it would be to consider, you know, provided that's the motion that's made, you know, in the future. But what I'm going to recommend perhaps is that somebody tonight, I'm hearing lots of people that would like to have more time. You know, there's been a lot of information. There's been an opportunity for people to submit information, including experts that wanted to submit it into the record. So, you know, it's not all about presentation. Certainly people can, you know, submit anything they would like through our planning office, and that opportunity has been there. But, you know, more time may be better, and that's what I'm hearing from folks. So, you know, I think it may be useful, from what I'm hearing from the Planning Advisory Committee, to spend a little bit more time. You know, Councillor Hurlbert wanted a little bit more time to review the material. I've heard that, you know, several times. Some have had the opportunity to review it, others no. We have a couple absences tonight from the PAC. So, I mean, there is always the option of tabling the motion to a future PAC meeting. And you know, if somebody wants to make that motion, that's the way to do that. Otherwise, I mean, you know, we could entertain the motion. I mean, that's at the discretion of the PAC. So if somebody wants to make the motion to table it and second it, we can have that conversation, vote on that. Warner, you'd like to make that motion? Table it the next.
I have a few comments after Nick.
Okay, Nick, how about a comment from you?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I am the count. So this was brought to the PAC directly related to proponents' request, and that was removed. So we're entertaining the idea of open flow, or removing closed containment and allowing all on-land aquaculture and in rural industrial zone with the use of a development agreement. We're about 2 months in. I forwarded a number of the emails that PA received, and again, I do believe that they were received in too short of a time frame to be absorbed and to make an informed decision on. But saying that, I have had time to process that information. I would be open to changing some of the wording to allow certain types of industry, but I would not be open to allowing finfish industry. You know, we've had several comments tonight related to the environment specifically, but we know that closed, and even provided in the case studies tonight, that closed containment agriculture, finfish agriculture, exists in the province of Nova Scotia. And one of the experts at that public participation meeting, in so many words, said, why would you open yourself up to open flow containment when we have world-class aquaculture already here in Nova Scotia. So I'm not opposed to fixing the wording if you want to allow shellfish and rockweed or seaweed type industry to open flow. We already have lobster ponds. That's a question that's open flow lobster ponds. That's a question we just approved one. I accept that because the water going into a lobster pond is as good going in as it is coming out. The water going into an open flow system is sterilized by UV light. Like Lauren proved a lot of mentioned a lot of the things that I was going to mention. The Yarmouth Wharf, the Yarmouth Port brings 22%. That's 47 million pounds of seafood into the town of Yarmouth that comes off the wharfs in the town of Yarmouth. So I do agree. I am not a marine biologist. We've had requests from some to present. They couldn't pull the proposal together, the proper proposal together in time. If we do decide to table the motion, maybe then the public, us, everyone will be properly informed to make that decision at a future time. I thought I was going to be the first one to talk. I really did, because I'm the counselor for the proposed area, and I've heard from a number of the residents. I've seen the 500 signs that are down here, the 300 bumper stickers that were just printed off. Like, I have yet to hear from one resident. I shouldn't say yet to hear from one. I've heard from one resident that was in favor of this, but the reasons they gave were not acceptable in the way that I would ownership of my own environment. So we speak, and in my opinion, we speak, the only place in the entire planning process we can truly protect our environment, coastline, and local industry is at the municipal level. And I truly believe that, that the process starts with the people around this table. And over the past few months, I've become enlightened to the fact that not every decision made at this committee bears the same weight, and tonight's recommendations play a major part in who we are, our current values, and what we're going to leave people in the future. So our municipal planning strategy, the most recent strategic plan, speaks directly to this. Our council unanimously voted in our strategic plan that the values that we will value and promote strong environmental stewardship practices. We have that now. That would be a step back if we were to remove closed containment of certain types of industry. The first 21 pages of the MPS, which I am becoming very aware of. In being a new counselor, it's a big read. MPS makes continuous references to the importance of environmental protection and stewardship. Page 8, the first founding principle is our natural environment. It states that we will protect ecological diversity and prevent damage to our natural assets. Page 10, underlying term goals, we list environmental health, and the first three objectives, to control land use development in the manner that we will preserve, enhance, and protect the natural environment of a municipality, especially wetlands and water courses, as well as environmental sensitive areas, to protect, maintain, and improve water quality, to protect surface and groundwater resources by discharging developments that would detrimentally affect quality and quantity of the water. And that's just the tip of the slowly melting climate changing iceberg. So, and it just continues in our strategic plan. It talks about supporting innovation and land-based agriculture systems which return water to the sea are not state of the art. Recirculating agriculture systems which return zero effluent are state of the art. And we have great examples of that within Nova Scotia. And they've been proven to be economically successful. And I would absolutely support an industry like that. And I welcome them. But allowing out of date polluting agriculture operations which harm the coastal ecosystem is not supporting innovation in the fisheries. And that's a quote from one of my residents. And I have remained open, and I am open to it. But what I've heard so far does not support my values and the values of my residents. And I know this isn't the council table, but I think we're a councilor at all time. It's important to say that and what we feel. And if a motion is made to accept it and move it to council, it gives it some undue bias that we actually support that. So it's important that we all vote how we feel at this table, and I would not be supporting open flow finfish agriculture here at the present time. If you want to look at it in 10 years when new technology exists, or even bring a better, prove to me that, like Josh said, prove to me that we're not hurting our environment, I would gladly reconsider. And I do appreciate all the work that Carolyn has done.
So, Mr. Hilton, could you
Yeah,
abbreviate your comments a little bit?
that's
a bit
fine.
long.
I am
Thanks.
done, but I appreciate it. It's a long conversation, but it's been a long 2 months for the people of Yarmouth County. So I appreciate your time. Thanks.
I will just say that the motion that is recommended from staff is not to accept. It's to consider, have council consider. So it's that is the motion that's being recommended by staff after looking at all the documents and including our municipal planning strategy currently. So and our strategic plan and all those other pieces of documentation. Having said that, I guess there are two ways to go this evening. One is to put the motion on the floor and vote. The other is to table the motion until the next meeting, and then give people an opportunity to look at the information that's been put forward so far, and encourage people certainly to submit additional information if they have it. If they're experts, certainly they could, and there may be the opportunity for a presentation. I'm not certain, depending if it's germane to the motion that would be coming, at the next meeting. So potentially at the next meeting. So we can have the suggested motion out there, and we can leave it there for a bit for people to contemplate. Is there anybody that would like to move that we table the motion on this item for the next meeting? Nick?
No, sorry, I don't believe from the comments that the feeling, I know you want to be better informed, but I don't feel that the recommendation is going to change enough to sway the difference in opinions that I've heard tonight. So I don't want to table. I would like to vote.
Okay. Anybody else want to table them? I mean, what I'm hearing is people wanted more time. So I mean, that seems to be the I heard that from lots of folks. So I'm just saying that seems like the thoughts people are having, but maybe I'm wrong. Warner.
Yeah, thanks, Trevor. I guess I've got a few comments here. First of all, we're currently in the process of reviewing our municipal planning strategy and land use bylaws. That process is ongoing now, and I forget about the timeline for it to be complete, but it's within the year. So it seems to me that we're talking about making a substantial change to something that we're currently reviewing. So we could possibly make this change and then get public feedback on our review and want to change it back again the same way. So it seems a bit premature that way. Secondly, and this is sort of echoing a bit of what Nick said, leaving the bylaw the way it stands does not close the door to land-based agriculture, finfish or otherwise. The door is wide open. We're simply asking that anyone who comes along who wants to do land-based agriculture in Yarmouth County, municipality of Yarmouth, does it to the best practices available now in the world, which is no more than they would be asking if we were going to locate land-based agriculture where they live. So we're asking them to treat us the same as we would treat them. So that's not unreasonable from my view. We're not closing the door to industry. We're saying, we welcome you, but these are the rules we want you to play by, because these are the best rules available now. And we really can't trust the province to police this, because I don't think they have the manpower or the ability to police it. And I don't think they have the desire to police it, to be honest with you. So saying that, I would support a change of the wording so that we changed it to closed containment for fin agricultural land-based, and had something else for bivalves such as oysters, and other shellfish. But if the proposal motion comes forward the way it is, I'd vote against it, because I don't think we should recommend that to council. I just don't think we should.
So I guess I'll have this, CEO Brooks.
Mr. Chair. So I think I'd like to offer something for the PAC to consider, which speaks to time as well as more learning and more understanding. So one thing that became apparent to me as we went through the public participation process and conversations with some of you one-on-one and with some of the individuals who have also reached out to each one of you or some of you, is that when the language closed containment was used, when our MPS and LUB was last reviewed, beginning in 2008, and I think wrapping up somewhere around 2013, I think language and meaning and vocabulary has changed a little bit, and there is some ambiguity around what that means. And I want to connect that specifically to what Mr. Comeau just said, because I think with some of the other licensing bodies like the province or the federal government, they may view some of that language a little bit differently. So if I'm hearing you all correctly, certainty and understanding what it is the PAC would be recommending to council in terms of, you know, the balance between promoting innovation in the seafood sector and land-based seafood development, as well as environmental stewardship. I think, you know, maybe where we're at as a group learning and navigating is we actually have to understand maybe some of the industry lingo and terminology, especially if we're going to maybe think about plenary sessions where experts from various perspectives on the issue are at the table sharing their experience and their knowledge with you. So maybe that's the next step, Mr. Chair, is to have staff try to develop something and propose it to the PAC that can help us maybe even just understand the vocabulary of this industry, and maybe that will help the decision makers process the information as it's delivered to them. Just something to consider.
I think that's a good idea, and I guess the whole idea of tabling the motion is procedurally not correct, because the motion never made it to the floor. So maybe that's the way forward. If everybody's in agreement with that, we can schedule the next meeting, and the CEOs heard everybody, and I've heard everybody's comment, and we can look at through you. And if you've got additional people that want additional input, we can perhaps see to that, and we can also see to maybe a plenary session where experts talk about those definitional pieces are really, really important, because what I'm hearing now is that closed containment, there is almost no such thing as a totally closed contained system. So that's an important facet that certainly I'm not certain that I have a complete understanding of to this point, and I'm hearing that's certainly important to know. So if that's all right by everybody, perhaps we'll leave that with CEO Brooks for a bit, and we can develop some agenda items for the next meeting, and go from there. So yes, Councillor Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my concern, part of me agrees with this, this new process, but I have a concern that when we talked about, when we as PAC or me as a councillor talked or didn't talk about the public participation and who was going to be our experts, I guess I'm not sure how the experts get selected. If some of us agreed or didn't disagree that the experts we had for the public participation were or weren't experts in this particular field, I guess my concern would be how are we going to be reassured as PAC members that the experts we have come to speak to us are really the experts we need to see, or will we be given the opportunity to suggest who those experts are? Thank you.
CO Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yeah, so just to clarify, what I was proposing was that staff develop a plan and bring a plan to the PAC for their approval. And the plan would be to that level of detail through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Hurlbert. It would be making recommendations on some choices and some options for some resources.
Well, thank you for the clarification. That makes good sense. So that does address that question. Councillor Hilton.
You're on mute.
Oh, yeah, you're muted.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So I guess I too want clarification on terminology as well, but just to be clear, you know, I think a lot of people have said closed contained. I see Sustainable Blue in the case study does say low water exchange system, so that is of interest, but I don't think and I think a lot of people at the table feel that exchanging any amount of effluent off our shore is not going to be acceptable. I know whatever the most reasonable and most current practices are is what we want to see happen here. And again, there's a reason that motion didn't make it to the floor, because it would need to be systematically different when it did come back to the table. So I know that and people are watching and they just want to see it go away forever. It's not going to go away, and it can always come back, and we just need to reevaluate every time it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. Are there additional concerns, comments, questions before we set the next meeting adjourn?
So,
yes,
Mr. Chair, I would request, sorry, I didn't mean to cut Mr. Kamal off, but I would request, if that is the PAC's wishes, that we just get that motion on the books, please, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and the motion would be that that you come back, that the CEO comes back to the PAC with a plan for additional clarification around.
I think it's additional learning or additional, access to additional learning. And so again, just to be clear, we would be proposing a plan. We would not be delivering a plan. We would be proposing a plan.
Right. So that clarifies the wording. So if somebody wants to make a motion that we task CEO Brooks with coming back to the PAC with a plan for additional learning, that would make that happen. Warner, do you move that, or do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, I would, no, I'd make that motion so we can put it on the floor, have a little discussion.
Okay, Warner moves. Seconder? Josh Strass seconds. Warner, you have some commentary?
Yes. I think the learning's going to be invaluable, because we certainly need to have more information than we have right now. Although we do have a lot of information, it's been hard to digest it. One suggestion I have is that we seem to have an extremely successful closed containment agricultural operation in the province now, being Sustainable Blue, and I would invite them to come down to give us some information on how they do their operation, how it all works. I'm sure they'd be willing to tell their story, and I think that would be invaluable, and it would certainly probably help to waylay some of the fears that people have about agriculture, land-based or otherwise.
Okay, thank you, Warner. Additional comments before we set the next meeting and adjourn? Oh, my apologies. Sorry, we've got a motion on the floor. We had a mover and a seconder, correct? Yes, we have a mover and a seconder. Oh, sorry, Councillor Cushing, I didn't see up there. You got your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Warner certainly alluded to what I was going to suggest, that we bring in, we're talking about experts, and, that would certainly be a good one to have. I'm not in full agreement that we can't have finfish. Finfish is a very valuable commodity to have, but if we have it in the right setting as I just lost the name of that place right now that they do it, right? And I think there's another place also in Nova Scotia that does the same. So I think these are the people we need to come in and talk to us, and I'll stand by what I said before. I like to see this. I think we all know where this is going to go, and I just want to, let's get it over with. Let's do it. Let's don't wait forever. Let's do it, and let's make sure we know what we're talking about, and let's put it to bed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cushing. Additional comments? Okay. There being none, there's a motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Mr. Hilton's opposed. You want that recorded, Nick?
Yes, please.
Okay, please record that. Okay, motion carried. Thank you. My apologies. I've got to get my my agenda up again. Okay, so any other items before we, no other items? And date of next meeting. CO Brooks, what's the suggestion from you for next meeting? I mean, really that depends somewhat on how long it will take for you to come up with the plan.
Well, I think we usually meet the third Tuesday of the month, correct? Yeah. So,
Correct.
so I would recommend, Mr. Chair, that we put that on the calendar and that we work to that.
That would
Okay,
be August 17th.
That's the 17th. That sounds excellent. 17th of August. Okay.
Just to one thing, Trevor. I
Yes.
think the 17th, that's when the election is it not? Will that be interfering?
Oh,
with any
yes,
of our-
it is. Yeah. So why don't we? And actually, I'll be. That's a valid point. Can we move that to? Can we move that to? Not that we couldn't have it, but people wouldn't want to split the screen, be watching the election results and on PHC at the same time. So that's a good point. So how's August the 19th sound? The Thursday. Could be the Wednesday. But yes, Nick.
I feel like Thursdays were an issue for Patty, one of the Patties. That's why she's not here. So maybe the following Tuesday might be more acceptable.
Yeah, I don't want to put it out too far. Can we do the 18th, Wednesday?
I cannot.
Okay. Well, let's do the Thursday. I mean, if we can get quorum, that's all right. I just don't dare put it out any further than that because we've got this to consider and other business as well. So
What are we considering?
Yeah, is there a big rush?
What are we?
well, I don't think there's any big rush, but again, a month is a long time for anything to go on. I mean, I guess the issue is if we don't have all the information we want at that meeting, we may need a subsequent meeting and so forth. So I mean, there's no rush, but I'd like to keep it within a month as chair, truthfully.
There's no motion on the table. What is the rationale for wanting to meet so soon?
Well, okay, we can do it on the 24th.
Let's go
Is that agreeable to everybody? Okay, August 24th.
Yeah, if I may, Trevor.
Yes.
If I may, Trevor.
Yes.
CAO Brooks mentioned that usually it's the third Tuesday of the month that we meet, which would have been August the 17th, but that's the election. So that's why I'm not saying there's any rush, but that's a schedule that we've always been following. So we had to change it. So, yeah, if people want to go to the 24th, that's so be it. But, you know, the only reason why the 17th was picked is because that's the third Tuesday of the.
Yeah, that's typical. Yeah, that's standard.
That's
And
all.
usually we try to get as close to that, but it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Councilor Hurlbert.
No,
Mr.
correct.
Chair, keeping in mind August has 5 Tuesdays, so you're really not at the end of the month by the 24th. So you still, you know, like if you're thinking about, like if you actually look at the calendar, there are 5 Tuesdays. So, you know, I guess it's splitting
Immaterial,
hairs.
it's fine by me. I don't care when we have it. Really. Is 24th good with everybody? Okay, 24th it is. Thanks so much, everybody. Movement to adjourn. Oh, Josh moves to adjourn, seconder. Nick, motion carried. Thanks, everybody.
everybody.
Looking
Good
forward
night.
to seeing you on the 24th. Night.